Good evening, everyone, and we're going to call to order the July 21st, 2014. It's hot tonight already. Let's start over. We're going to call to order the July 21st, 2014 City Council meeting. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And on our consent docket this evening, we have 4 items. Any councilors wish to remove any of those 4 items from the consent docket?
Item D we need to pull because we need to give you a date.
Okay. So address it below? Or?
Yes, if you could.
Okay. So we'll pull item D. Anybody wish to remove A, B, or C?
No, to approve the consent docket.
Consent motion to second. Motion and second to approve A, B, and C on the consent docket. And that's approved 5-0. We did not have any requests to speak for items not for public hearing, and so item D, Mr. Dorman.
We would ask that date for the public hearing be set for September 4th, 2014.
All right. Any questions? Is there a motion on item D on the consent docket to set it for September 4th, 2014?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. That's approved 5-0. Okay, that's going to take us down to public hearings, and we have 5 public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is public comment closing portion of the easements of 2399 North Perkins Road and 798 East Lakeview Road. Mr. Dorman, do we get good notice?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison.
Good evening. Paula Dennison with you this evening. What we have is a request to close the easement identified in the green and hatched area that is cutting across this property. This property is proposed for development, and in order to do so, they need this easement closed. There are no utilities within the easement at all. Has been evaluated by staff. Any easements necessary at the time of development will be dedicated at that time.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go ahead and open up our public hearing, and we did have a request to speak from Roger Ghost. I don't see him in the audience. Is he here? Okay. And we'll call on our first speaker of the evening, Roger Ghost.
Sorry, you're moving awful fast tonight. We're talking about the easement.
Yes, item A.
This old easement, it was put in there. Nothing's ever been put in it. There's a site plan submitted which will relocate the location of the proposed easements or the utility. So that's coming. And there's nothing in there, so we'd like you to close it.
Okay.
Any
questions, Mr. Ghost?
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay. Look through. We did not have any other requests to speak in favor or against, so we will close the public hearing. And Ms. Dennison?
Staff is the one that reviews these closing requests, and staff recommends approval of this request.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dennison? Okay. Is there a motion on staff's recommendation?
Move to accept staff's recommendation to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And that is approved 5-0. Take us down to our second public hearing. Receive public comment regarding the closing of platted right-of-ways and easements on the south side of 12th Avenue. Did we get good service, Mr. Gorman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison?
Yes, thank you. This is a request to close a number of undeveloped, unused, a little slightly used easements and rights-of-way within a large area on the south side of 12th. If you're looking at the screen, it's all of the area that is in the hatched. You can see there's sewer running through here. The red is the green. The red are some of the electric utilities that are serving customers outside of this area. And this property here that has the building on it is the Washington School. So that gives you a vicinity and area that we are discussing. There are a number of owners of this property. In order for any development to occur, and we have not had anything submitted to the office, but this is just a removal of encumbrances, because anyone wishing to acquire the property, city develop it, anything of that matter, these rights of ways and easements would need to be closed. So that's what this request is for. As I said, the streets and alleys are not built. There are some infrastructure, primarily stormwater, that runs through there. There's the channel. It's located in floodplain. Floodway is to the south of this area, to be closed also. So those utilities would need to be protected. Through the vacation process, we can reserve the easements. And instead of having to go out there, resurvey, find anything like that, we can just reserve the appropriate easements in the vacation process. And as I mentioned, it does allow for any potential development of these properties. Any questions of me on this item?
When you're obviously talking utility easements, but you're also talking about the platted road right-of-ways and alleyways, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And isn't there an alleyway that runs right through the building of the Washington School?
There's a lot of stuff in the vicinity, yes. And a portion of the alleyway is, I believe, running right in through there.
Okay. All right, any questions for Ms. Dennison? Thank you. We will open up the public hearing, and we do have two requests to speak, Charles Campbell and Larry Hoberock. You guys wish to speak or just be available for questions? Or?
Just here to clarify and to observe and request your consideration to let it proceed.
So if we have any questions, we can call them in. We do not have any other requests to speak on this matter. Ms. Dennison?
Again, staff evaluates this, and through our evaluation, we are recommending approval for the closing of the identified properties.
Any questions of Ms. Dennison on this? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this recommendation. That's approved 5-0. That's going to take us down to our third public hearing, and that's to receive public comment, map amendment rezoning property at 214 West Elm from residential multifamily intermediate to high-rise zoning. Have good notice?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison.
This is a continuation of some of the fairly recent requests that have been before the council. You will see on the screen, this is located on the north side of Elm. To the east, Husband, Duncan, and over on the west side is Duck. The property is the one in the hatched area. The 6 properties immediately to the west of the hatched area have recently been rezoned to high-rise district. So this is a continuation of acquisition by the developers of properties that they are adding to their development once any action by the council, affirmative action by the council, is taken for this amendment. It is consistent with our new C3 comprehensive plan. It's adjacent to high-rise, even though it's not indicated on this map. These 6 properties are zoned high-rise. On the south side of Elm is high-rise as well. It does allow for a future phase of the proposed development that's currently being, the houses on the other 6 properties are being demoed at this time. And it does allow a density of 100 units per acre at a maximum height of 100 feet. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this request that you may have.
Is this the same group that is doing the one across the street?
Yes, sir, it certainly is.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll open up the public hearing, and we do have one request to speak. Kelly Harris.
Good evening, Kelly Harris at 923 South Lowry, here representing the eventual owners and developers, hopefully. Ms. Dennison really covered the whole story. We're just here to answer any questions if you have any.
I guess my only question is I don't have a problem with the zone. I think it's good. I know last time we talked about this, we had a gentleman come up and express some concern about the amount of kind of the dirtiness of the project and them not taking care of the street. And then just right after we rezoned it and the guys, said they'd take care of it, we got some photos of it not being taken care of. And I think the gentleman or the owners were even put on notice from the city. Is there anything we can do to make sure they're trying to be the best neighbors they can be? I mean, I understand it's construction, and I understand it's high rise, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like there maybe is something more we could do than just kind of.
That word hasn't gotten back to my office. All I can do is pass your concerns along to the developer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if there's nothing she can do, then pass that along,
Sorry,
please.
I will, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't have any further requests to speak, so Ms. Dennison, give us Planning Commission's recommendation?
Yes, the Planning Commission is sending a recommendation of approval for this request.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dennison about the recommendation?
Well, I would just, Ms. Dennison, would you respond to Councilor's comment about keeping the site up?
Be happy.
You do.
Be happy to. We have staff going out there multiple times every week and holding their feet to the fire as the codes and requirements allow. With the dry spells we've had and then the massive rush of water we have had, it's been rather a challenge to make sure that all situations are addressed in a timely manner, but staff is staying on top of it, as are the developers.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the gentleman calling your office, or are you just doing this proactively?
We're proactively going out. After the last council meeting, when it was specifically voiced the concern of the dust, I believe at that time, we are staying on top of it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it is a construction site, and we do acknowledge and recognize that there will be dust and dirt, but we can enforce our code and make sure they're being good neighbors.
Yes, sir. And sometimes just reminding them of that little extra oomph that they can take goes a long way.
That's good. Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion second to approve Planning Commission's recommendation. That is approved 5-0. Okay, we're going to shake things up a little bit. I do need to state that this next public hearing, my paying job, my company has this transaction in our office. So I'm going to recuse myself from this matter, and I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Weaver to please handle the public hearing on this matter.
Be happy to, just don't go too far.
I won't go too far.
Okay. The next item of business is item D, under public hearings, receive input and comments regarding a map request for a map amendment rezoning property addressed at 406 South Hester Street from RMI to high rise. Mr. Dorman, I believe I need to ask you if you've done your job.
I've done my job.
Good notice?
Notice is adequate.
All right. Ms. Dennison, I see you're still standing there. You must have something to say.
Yes, sir. Just a little bit. This, again, is similar situation to what you just had. You can see on the map the area in brown is existing high-rise. This piece of property has only recently been acquired by the owners and the developers of the area that has been zoned high-rise. So this is the last fill-in piece in this entire area for the district. Again, it is consistent with our comprehensive plan as well as our corridor redevelopment plan with the expected growth that's occurring. It's adjacent to high-rise. As I said, it's sort of a fill-in, and it does allow the density of 150 units per acre at a maximum height of 100 feet in that district. put the picture back up there for you. Be happy to answer any questions. This is a different developer than those that we were just talking about.
Does anyone have any questions for Paula before we open up the public hearing?
None.
Seeing none. Open the public hearing, and I understand, Kelly, you want to comment on this project as well?
Good evening again, Kelly with Keystone Engineering at 923 South Lowry. Again, Paula did a great job covering the history of the project, and here just answering any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Harris?
No, sir.
Thank you.
We have no other comments for public hearing, so we'll close the hearing and we'll hear staff's recommendation.
Plan Commission is sending a recommendation of approval for this request to the council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. See, we have 4 and then 1 absent councilman. Scare him up, Paula.
I was going to make you sweat.
No. We had a plan.
We have a plan. Okay. All right, so we're on the 5th one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, our 5th public hearing of the evening has received comments regarding a map amendment rezoning property at 498 and 519 South Jardo. Do we have good notice?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dennis.
Thank you. This is a request to rezone property currently under construction, and a phase of it has been developed for a few years, known as The Vintage. It's an apartment complex on Jardo, just north of 6th Avenue. 6th, you can barely see at the bottom of the screen. The property currently zoned RTM. The request to go to RMI. And the reason for the request, when the city had, and this is similar to the property that the council rezoned from RTM to RMI on the south side of Lakeview Road, west of Boomer, Maine, Washington, but east of Western Avenue. It's been a number of meetings ago. When the city had one residential multifamily zoning district, and then we evaluated breaking that one district into multiple districts. We came with the RTM, RMI, RMU, and the high-rise district at that time. That did away with the single RM multifamily residential zoning district. The application of each of those new categories to the existing one multifamily zoning district was based on the existing use of the property at the time that the categories were broken out. So this was zoned RTM instead of a higher zoning classification because the density of the existing phase 1 of the Vintage development at that time. They are coming back in now, and the RMI allows for an increased density as well as an increased building height from 35 feet to 50 feet is their request, and from 20 units per acre under the RTM to 30 units per acre under the RMI. So that is the reason for their request this evening. Is consistent with the comprehensive plan. As I said, it allows 30 units per acre at 50 feet high. There is no RMI zoning located in the vicinity. It is adjacent to commercial, as you can see the CG on the south side, which is right next to Highway 51, and this does front Jardo. I will state that anything when phase 1, since phase 1 was started under the RM before the additional zoning categories were proposed and adopted, then the entire development would have been allowed to continue under that RM designation. It would have just been a legally non-conforming development. This is going to correct that and remove any of the non-conformities.
Questions, Ms. Denison?
You showed us where the commercial property is. What's behind it or to the other side of it? The green.
Oh, this right here, that is a small strip of agriculture. The green is, the frontage here in the yellow is RTM as well, and I believe there's just a house on it, on that property. But this green strip here is zoned agriculture.
And then there's single-family homes on the other side.
There's large lot, single family, yes, up to Eastern. And this is Crestwood, I believe is the name of the addition. It's small lot, but it's also developed as a planned unit development, which is smaller lots and more dense than your typical straight small lot, single family zoning.
But it's still RSS, am I reading that right?
Yes, yes, it certainly is. And then commercial is on the south side. And you get over the blue that you see here, that's school.
Were any of the neighbors notified? Are they within the 300 feet? Would anybody have been notified?
All of these properties, because it's 300 feet from the boundaries of the property, not just from where the development is occurring, but the boundaries of the property. I do not know that dimension, but those on the other side of Jardeau also would have been notified.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Dennison? Okay. Thank you. Open up the public hearing, and we do have one request to speak. Jimmy Hill.
I'm Jimmy Hill, engineer for the applicant. I do need to give you a little quick background. I will respect your time and try to push through this. This tract of 20 acres was, as Paula has outlined, was zoned RM, which allowed 50 feet of height for any building there. A two-phase plan was developed for a portion of this 2 or 3 years ago for a little less than 4 acres of this total tract. The first phase of that plan had 4 apartment buildings. The second phase was planned with 5 apartment buildings. Phase 1 has been built. The 4 buildings exist there. They are 2-story apartment buildings. With the experience of the applicant, the rental niche that he wants to serve seems to point him toward 1-bedroom units so that he's able to get more units and less space. So that phase 2 has been redesigned to bring down to 2 buildings, one of which would be 2-story, one of which would be 3-story. That's the current plan on which construction has started. The grading is underway out there now. He feels this is a better design because he's able to get the 1-bedroom units that he would like to have, and he's able to do that in a smaller footprint so that there's considerably more green space left in the developed area. When he was ready to proceed and talk about a building permit for the phase 2 buildings, to his surprise, the property had been rezoned from RM, which remember allows 50 feet of height, down to RTM, which constrained the height limit down to 35 feet. This was a problem in that his plan for the 3-story building would be a building of about 46 feet, a little over 46 feet high. So in working with city staff on that, as Paul has already indicated, we have a letter from city staff members saying, okay, to go ahead as a non-conforming use. And in the letter, it was suggested that a map amendment be pursued. So with phase 2 underway and with the remaining property yet to be designed and developed, frankly, we're not sure about the legality, John, the duration of just a mere letter from city staff saying that you can go to RM criteria even though it's zoned RTM. We would really prefer to have the RMI zoning approved so that the 50-foot height could again be possible. So that's really the sum and substance of the request, is to go to the RMI zoning to allow the 50 feet that the original RM zoning would have allowed. I might note, as you're aware, the Planning Commission was unanimous in recommendation, and we would request your approval also. Unless there's a question, I'll stop there.
Questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Dennison, Planning Commission's recommendation?
Yes, the Plan Commission does send a recommendation of approval of this request. I would like to say one thing. The area, I just checked the map, and up to the properties on the north side of Timbercrest, all of those areas were notified within the 300 foot. Yes, ma'am.
We go back to the
certainly.
map real fast.
Mm-hmm.
The agriculture immediately adjacent to the west of agriculture, you said that's RTM?
This little piece?
That's zoned RTM, even though the existing use, you believe is a house?
Correct.
And so the request...
Oh, I'm sorry, RSS. My apologies, it's RSS, not RTM.
That is RSS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, that piece is RSS.
So is that a natural transition, RSS to RTM?
It's rather difficult to just quantify that just on one individual portion of a piece of property, because the amount of property that this RSS and ag encompasses, even though it's narrow, it's deep, so it could allow itself to a number of uses, especially located against, even though the base is RSS, it's a planned unit development, which has, as I alluded to earlier, increased density and smaller lot sizes than your typical RSS. So the existing RSS north of this property and then the ag is not functioning as a true RSS zoning district. So it's hard to say that this is a much off transition. The RTM, of course, is the next step up from the RSS RT once you start getting into the multifamily. The RMI is one step above that. He does have the, as Mr. Hill talked about, he does have the legally non-conforming right to the property to continue to develop all of the phases in that 50-foot height at the 30 dwelling units per acre under the previous RM. So this is simply removing that nonconformity from the property.
Are the bulk standards of the old RM, and this may be an unfair question off the cuff, but the bulk standards of the old RM compared to the current bulk standards of RMI? How do those compare, height, density, setbacks? I mean, they're going to be close, but...
Yes, RMI, the request that is before you this evening, RMI allows 30 units per acre at 50 feet in height. The RM, former 1 district, allowed the 50 feet in height, so it's the same. It allowed by right 25 units per acre, which is 5 less than RMI allows, but with a specific use permit, you could go up to 40 units per acre, which is 10 more than the request is that he's asking for currently. So there's a little bit of difference in the density requirements, but here again, it's a specific use permit, requires the public hearing, Plan Commission recommendation to the council and the council action.
As does this action.
As does this action. Any other questions for Ms. Dennison? Thank you. Is there a motion on Planning Commission's recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Accept it.
You have a second? Okay. Motion to accept in a second.
You can have the motion if you want, and I'll second it.
Whatever.
And that is approved 5-0. It's going to take us down to general orders, and our first is the annual report from Friends of Lake McMurtry. Gentlemen.
How are you doing?
Doing wonderful.
Let me see if I can get this pulled up, Gary. There you go.
Mr. Dornan, I have a question for you, if you could, while they're getting that pulled up.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, it's a pleasure for us to be here tonight. My name's Dan Lawrence. I'm the Executive Director for Lake McMurtry Friends that operate Lake McMurtry for the City of Stillwater. We're here to give you a little information about what's going on at the lake and what's been happening over the last year or so. And I'm going to turn it over to our Park Manager, Jared Aviles, and he's going to give you our presentation tonight.
Good evening. How are you guys tonight? Very good. We will try to keep this straightforward, somewhat short. Just want to say thanks for the opportunity for being here, and thanks for the air conditioning. It was warm today. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we've done over the last year and what we plan on doing. When we spoke last summer, we had just installed a few gatehouses in our park, and we had just gotten those staffed towards the end of the summer. We've been fortunate enough to staff those an entire summer this year. We have them open 7 days a week, and we have people coming out to the lake and seeing a lake staffed in that gatehouse. And it's been really, really beneficial for us to let everybody know about the policies and regulations and all the rules out of Lake McMurtry, and as well as, you know, when folks come out, they see somebody out there. So that's been a very good success for us this year.
Is that volunteer staff or paid staff?
That is paid staff, mostly college students. A lot of our seasonal staff is college students, and it works quite well for them because during the slow time we allow them to study, and they're real honest kids, and we enjoy having them out there, and they bring a real good personality to the lake, and I get great feedback from my customers on them. So it's been a real good thing. One of our biggest
Staff do you have?
I'm sorry?
How many paid staff do you have?
Currently we have 7 that run our gatehouses, and then 2 grounds crew and 3 full-time. So 7, 3, and 2, that's 10, 12. 12, just off the top of my head real quick. So one of our bigger capital improvements this last year was an east side storage facility. We did not have anywhere to put lawnmowers, tools, have a workshop. And anytime we make a capital improvement, we try to be environmentally conscious of what we're doing. So we decided to reuse materials. We had shipping containers delivered to the east side of Lake McMurtry. Instead of building a brand new shop and laying concrete, we've renovated these shipping containers to allow us to store materials and to work out of. Along with that, that has enabled us to store kayaks, and we are doing kayak rentals now at Lake McMurtry. Again, that kind of goes back to our carbon footprint. We want to add amenities out there that are low impact on the environment, and kayaks were kind of a no-brainer. We started those back in June. They're taking off quite well, and we're hoping to actually add paddle boards because a lot of our customers are talking about paddle boards. I myself have never been on one. I'm going to have to try it out, but apparently it's the latest and greatest thing. So we are going to look into doing paddleboard rentals out at Lake McMurtry as well. Another capital improvement we have made over the last year is 8 additional RV sites. We have added 8 brand new sites on the west side of Lake McMurtry, full electric, full 50 amp, and some of the sites are waterfront, so they're very, very nice, very slick sites. Those have come online this summer, so we've expanded from a total of 16 to 22 RV sites. So that's been a pretty good accomplishment for us this last year. And when we were expanding our RV sites, we realized that technology has kind of changed things and how we do anything in our daily lives, and camping as well. And so that's why we installed free Wi-Fi in the park. So when campers come out, they can get on Lake McMurtry Wi-Fi. They can get their Facebook, they can get their Twitter, they can get their email, they can do it all there while they're camping with us. And we've also tapped into the online community as well. People can find us on the web now. We have a brand new website, lakemcmurtry.com. You can go on there, you can rent a campsite just like you would rent a hotel room. You can purchase an annual pass, you can find park maps, you can find our amenities, you can find directions, you can GPS us. So our new website has been a very beneficial way of operating business over this last year. So those are some of the highlights of some of the things we've done. And we have multiple events out at Lake McMurtry to kind of showcase what's out there. One of our biggest successes this year was our Mud University event. I hope some of you have heard of that. It was in collaboration with Dr. Tim Baghurst of OSU. Lake staff built an obstacle course for kids. The premise behind this was to promote physical activity among youth as well as teamwork. We had a 2-day event in April, and we were pleasantly surprised with 535 kids attending this event. It was a real big success for us. We had a great time. The kids were not timed. It was not a timed race. The premise was teamwork. So they were released in waves of 8 or 4 or whatever team size they made. And if they completed the course, they graduated Mud University and they got a prize. So it was a real swell deal. We got a lot of great feedback on it, so much so that we're going to be hosting a second one with Dr. Baghurst this fall, September 27th and 28th. So we're pretty excited about that. Another event out at Lake McMurtry you'll find each spring is our spring celebration. This is just a little fun event to kick off spring and summer, get us back on everybody's radar. And this year we had over 150 people come out and attend this fun little festive event. And I got to give thanks to all of our community partners, the Stillwater Police Department, the Stillwater Fire Department, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Department, LifeNet. All those organizations came out. They let the kids touch the trucks. They did demonstrations. The K-9 unit, or excuse me, the Sheriff's Department did a demonstration with the K-9 units. Oklahoma Highway Patrol actually flew in a helicopter and landed there. So that was the highlight of the event. It was pretty neat, and you can see that in the photo there. Among those, we also had many booths set up. Payne County 4-H, Sierra Club, reptile petting. The Wonderatorium came out. We had Boy Scouts out. We had OSU bicycling giving demonstrations. So we just had a lot of fun little things to do for the families and get the community out there and remind them of Lake McMurtry, and we fed everybody food. So it was a real good time. And some of our smaller and ongoing projects include our volunteer trash cleanups. We try to host 2 volunteer trash cleanups a year out at Lake McMurtry. Anybody that is involved in recreation management or management of a city or just anywhere where there's humans, we all know that there is trash anywhere there's human traffic. So we try to do our best as staff members to stay on top of the trash out there, but our volunteer trash cleanup is a way to get the community involved as well as reducing our costs on labor as far as picking up trash goes. We partnered with Keep Oklahoma Beautiful. They provided some materials for us. We've had some grants provided by the Oklahoma Clean Lakes and Watershed Association to feed our volunteers. And we've had donations from OSU Society of Environmental Scientists come out. They've donated, and that club has come out and volunteered their time. And like I said, we usually try to host 2 of those a year because we have an East Recreation and a West Recreation area, so we try to hit each recreation area once a year. We also offer educational programs. We have schools contact us from time to time, and they want their kids to come out and spend a day at the lake and get some education as well. And one of my most memorable from last year was a group of foreign exchange students affiliated with Oklahoma State University's environmental science program. They were from China. They came out for 3 hours to Lake McMurtry. And to kind of preface this, they are from inner city China. They do not have access to recreation areas such as hiking trails, parks, swimming areas. They don't have access to that at all. So they came out to Lake McMurtry for 3 hours, and they were just in awe of the fact that there was all this area undeveloped and usable for recreation. And so we had Professor Long come out and give some good information about fish studies. We had Jerry Fleming come out, and she gave a water pollution program, and then we also seined for fish. We got the kids in the water, and this was the best part because they were excited to get in the water. We seined for fish, collected the fish, identified them, And they were so excited about the water that I couldn't keep them out. They all took their shirts off and went swimming. So it was a really fun deal. And we want Lake McMurtry to not only be a recreation area, but we want it to be an area of learning as well. And with that, there's constant OSU research going on at Lake McMurtry, professors and students out there. There's a number of different studies going on right now, from invasive species to fishery studies to lake management plans, and even sand plum genetics. Now, I couldn't tell you much about sand plum genetics other than we have lots of sand plums, and if you like making sand plum jelly, come pay me a visit and I'll show you where they're at out there. So, along with that, we have a lot of other events, mountain biking and foot race events, and a few disc golf tournaments we've hosted out there, and we're working with the local disc golf club to get those guys out there and host some of their mini tournaments out at the new disc golf courses that we built. Some of our future plans ongoing, we will always make improvements to the park. That's going to be something we continually work on. But one park improvement in particular we want to see happen over the next year is shower facilities on the east side. Currently, folks don't have access to showers on the east side of the lake. They have to drive all the way to the west side if they're not in an RV, and so we want to put showers on the east side of the lake. And we also want to tackle a road maintenance plan as well over the next year. We're working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service to develop a management plan for red cedar control out there, because red cedars are an invasive species. And we are working with the Conservation Commission, coordinating with them to build a permeable parking lot for our disc golf courses. So again, being conscious or environmentally aware of our projects out there. Some more events we want to get our feet wet with. There's some kayak fishing tournaments, maybe some music festivals, and more races. We eventually want to see summer camps out there, get the community and the kids more involved out at Lake McMurtry. We have plans to do natural playgrounds out there for the littler ones. And going back to being an area of learning, we think a nature center would be a great thing to have out at Lake McMurtry later on down the road. Some of the marketing opportunities we've been involved in over the last year include Women's Night Out. We attended that event. That was a great event. We're always trying to get out in the community and make people aware of Lake McMurtry, because there are a lot of recreation areas around Stillwater. We're a unique community, and we want to be a part of that unique community. And so we try to get out in the community and market ourselves as much as possible. We attended Lights on Stillwater last year. We will attend again this year. We had a booth at the Oklahoma Clean Lakes and Watershed Association annual conference this year. That was over at Oklahoma State University. We've met all the great folks at Rotary Club. And if you enjoy listening to me now, you can find more of me on 105.1 at 8:45 in the morning on Fridays, local radio show with Steve McDaniels. We do that, as well as any opportunities we get to make TV appearances. We try to make those local TV appearances on TV 31 as well. And I was going to let Dan chat real quick about this slide.
I just wanted to remind you that the last time I was here, we had a little ordinance change. And due to that ordinance change for special events alcohol permit, we did host, I think you'll recognize him there, Mr. Stan Clark of Stan Clark Companies and Eskimo Joe's, for their employee summer social. And they had a great day, rented all the kayaks at the lake and used them all day. And I just wanted to say thank you. That's going to open up some new doors for us to be able to capture a little bit more income for the lake. So I appreciate it. That's basically our presentation tonight. We thank you for everything you do for Lake McMurtry, and if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Oh, I'd just like to tell you, I think you guys are doing a fabulous job. You took something that was an unfortunate situation for us when we had the budget downturn, and we're able to turn this into not a private lake, but through a private-public partnership, we're able to turn the operation over to you, and you've performed beyond my wildest expectations.
Thank you.
Just to be perfectly honest, this is a huge success story. The only thing I'd ask you that I didn't see in your slides is, would it be possible to start keeping usage statistics, like how many came this month versus same month last year, so we could see that the lake and the facilities are being used?
Yes, we can capture that.
Most certainly.
Yes.
That
be more than happy to provide some of that information to you if you want it.
Good job.
Very good job, and I hope you get the paddle boards. Not for me, for the younger people.
Well, thank you. Yeah. We've had a lot of buzz about
I'll be
that.
real impressed. Those were tough. Those are tough.
They're very tough.
All right, yes, thank you guys very much. Good presentation, appreciate the sharing of the information, and congratulations and thank you for the wonderful work you're doing at Lake Mertry.
Come to Lake McMurtry.
Thank you, thank you.
Come and visit.
We'll be out there. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, without putting too much pressure, because I feel confident with our next under general orders is the annual report from Friends of Multi-Arts. We did these agreements approximately the same time, and I know that last year both reports came back, and I'm not sure which one impressed me more from last year's report. So without putting any pressure on Friends of Multi-Arts, we're ready for your report.
Valerie Bloodgood. I'm the president of the Friends of Multi, and Bill Miller, our executive director, is here tonight. I just would like to thank you all very much for the opportunity to be able to continue to offer the arts to the Stillwater community through this public-private partnership. Some of the, how many of you all have been to Multi-Arts Center? So you know that we do offer some wonderful arts programs. We also have a beautiful gallery of artwork that is for sale by artists within our area. And in addition to those class offerings and the gallery, some of our projects this year, we've had some speaking engagements. Bill has spoken to the Rotary Club, Career Tech, and the National Association of Retired Federal Employees. There has been the continuation of the Summer Arts Camp. This year, the theme was Art Through the Ages. Each year, the theme changes, and in a few weeks, I believe that the artwork will be, a special exhibit will be highlighting the artwork that the students participated in. Some of the multi-facilities have been utilized by different organizations here in Stillwater, the Stillwater Arts and Humanities Council, the Stillwater Public Library, and the Postal Plaza, for example. We are doing some partnering through use of our facilities, and we hope to work further with the Postal Plaza as they develop their exhibits. We will have some activities and workshops that will tie in with that as well. In addition to providing guest artist workshops and special events, we had a very wonderful opportunity this year in that we hosted, through the grant from the Oklahoma Arts Council, a bike art event. This was in connection with the National Bike Month. Multi conducted related art classes, held a bike art welding workshop in conjunction with that. The event was Sunday, May 18th, and it drew cyclists of all ages. They decorated their bikes with supplies that were provided at Multi-Arts Center. Then they went to different stations throughout the downtown community. Businesses made their space available to the young riders. And there were different stations where they could create art at those stations as well. Then they came around and finished back at Multi and received awards for their decorated bikes. I believe that you have an attached sheet that shows the numbers of people that were served from January to May of this year. And without any other notification, we again would like to thank you all very much for the opportunity that you provide. Does anyone have any questions?
Say, in looking at the breakout of the people that you've served so far this calendar year, I mean, that's impressive. Over 48, almost 4,900 people having gone through Multi. That is very impressive. Mm-hmm. Is there I don't even know if this is how to break down on ages. Is there
The majority of the population that has been served this year has been children through children's programming and through the summer art camp. I do know that Bill, in his last report to the board, stated that the summer art camp numbers had exceeded their expectations for this year. They had set a goal, 175? Yeah. And they're at 192 now. So they had 175 as their goal. So the children are the highest number of population served.
And I can tell you that the summer art camp, at least the mid-June session, I know, produced a lot of wonderful art for the children to bring home. And so, on top of that, it was very educational because I know just from personal experience, it's not just the creation of art, it was the education and the art history that really impressed me from that art camp. And so I know that I've really enjoyed, I was just flipping through the summer schedule and the different classes. Ongoing, this is a summer schedule in the fall. I know when school gets started, it's hard to coordinate with kids because of school, but I know that had been a focus at one point. Is that still, with that being the population that seems to be the most popular, I can word that better, but.
That's where the focus has been right now. We are wanting to work towards workshops and some classes focusing on adults as well. We do have contract with the Stillwater Public Schools during the fall and spring.
Okay, is that like during school hours, after school?
During school.
During school hours.
It's quite impressive and very good for Stillwater.
It is very good for Stillwater.
And while it serves more young people, it also serves people of all ages.
Right. There's no doubt that when you look through the different types of art that's being created, and I think that's probably one of the more impressive things, beyond the number of people, the diversity of what type of art is being practiced and created. Very impressive.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A great success story, both of them.
Those are good success stories, and I was very impressed because they both were about 2 years since creation, and the numbers of people participating and the benefits that they're creating have increased dramatically, and the cost to the city's budget has been decreasing. It's pretty good stuff.
All the while, the quality is high.
Quality increase.
Cost. That has been my experience hearing people involved. The people are passionate about what they're doing.
That's right.
And it comes through in all the programming. It's just really been nice.
Thank you. Okay. Go down to item C under general orders. Land exchange between City of Stillwater and Commissioners of the Land Office. Mr. Blankenship.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dan Blankenship, SUA Director. Go pull the map up on the screen here. This is an aerial view of the proposed land exchange with the City of Stillwater's portion being here just north of National Standard, the 12.25 acres along the west side of Perkins Road. That extends up to the very south side of the park area that is owned as, I think, common area of Parkview Estates. And then it extends to approximately this location on the west side. The Kamioka Trail that connects up to Parkview Estates is actually this line that is right there. The Commissioners of the Land Office, they own, or the state, it's actually state property, is a school-land property, and they own basically the L-shaped piece of land north and east of Armstrong. There is some private ownership between Armstrong and the Commissioners of the Land Office. When we proposed or were looking at the possibility of building a power generation station, we had a feasibility study performed. It was completed in January of 2013. As part of that feasibility study, we identified potential parcels in which the power generation station could be located. It came down to the northwest corner of Jardeau and Airport as being I guess the preferred or best location for the station for a number of reasons. When we were looking at the different parcels of land that were available, we looked at, number one, proximity to our transmission systems. We operate a 69,000 kilovolt transmission loop through the city, and this is something that we need to connect the power generation station directly to. And we have the 69 kV is available exists on both Airport Road and Jardeau at this location. Another thing that's critical to the operation of the new plant is natural gas supply. Currently, the nearest transmission gas pipeline is approximately 4 miles north of this location. It runs from a northwest to a southeast direction. So out of all the parcels that we looked at, this was the closest to the gas transmission line. The surrounding land use and zoning was also a consideration. This particular parcel is zoned industrial and is surrounded on the north, the west, and the south by industrial zone land, and the city limits is actually down Jardeau. One of the last things that we looked at was suitability of the site and access to the site. This particular site is relatively flat and has excellent access. We contacted this CLO to see if we could acquire this piece of property from them. They have some specific procedures that they have to follow, and they could not just sell us this property outright. They told us that they could exchange this property with us for another piece of property. So we provided them with a list of various properties that we owned, and they took a look at those and determined that they had the most interest in the piece of property on Perkins, because their interest is ultimately not to just keep this property, but to any of their properties, they would like to sell that to an investor or developer at some point in time. So they chose the particular property on Perkins and offered a 2-to-1, basically a 2-to-1 land exchange with their 2 acres per one of our acres. Part of the process was to have the property appraised. We went through that appraisal process, determined that even with the 2-to-1 difference in land area, the appraised value of the city land was higher than the CLO land. We immediately went back to them and asked them if they would be willing to increase their size of the land that at their location to make it more equitable. They were not. They felt like that the proposed land exchange met their criteria. Given the difference in cost, we went ahead and revisited the available other parcels in that area. And because of the cost to either extend the transmission or extend the gas line or make site improvements, we came to the conclusion that the value of the CLO land for the purposes of building a power plant was significantly higher than the difference in the 2 appraised values. So I have no hesitation in making the recommendation that or no reservation in making the recommendation to make the land exchange. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the proposal.
Questions, Mr. Blankenship?
Can you clarify what you said by, did you say we gave them a list of the property we own and they looked in to see what? Yeah,
we, at the time, it was about the time that this was, when we started meeting with the CLO was, I think, after we entered into the contract with GRDA. So it was just a little less than a year ago, and we were going through had recently gone through the process of selling a number of our parcels, and so we had inventoried and identified the various parcels of land that the city owned throughout the community, and so we had that list. We provided it to them. We actually even offered up the 2 parcels that we purchased, that the SUA purchased adjacent to Boomer Lake Station. And in fact, those were the first 2 parcels we offered up. But when they went through and inventoried and did a drive-around inspection of all of the parcels that we had available, they specifically identified this parcel as the parcel that they would like to do the exchange with.
And then, again, sorry to clarify, why they won't just sell it to us?
According to the way that they are organized, they cannot just outright sell a piece of property. And Mr. Dorman, if I speak incorrectly, because I think you're more familiar with this than I am, but they would be required to go out to a bid process. Because we flat out asked them, that was our first choice. Can we just have this property appraised and purchase this property from you? They said they legally could not do that, but the alternative that they had, as opposed to going to a public bid, would be the land swap or the land exchange alternative.
Why didn't we just let them go to a public bid?
Our concern about going to a public bid is that anyone could bid for that, and that site we had identified as the most cost-effective site in the entire area to build our new plant. So if we were, for whatever reason, not able to acquire that site, then we would be going to an alternative site that at the end of the day would cost more to the project.
So the land, are you done?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
Okay. I might ask a question you're already going to ask. The land that they want is less than the land, less in size or acres
Correct.
than what we're getting. And you said they want that specifically. They absolutely picked that piece of property.
Yes.
So they can sell it.
Right. That's their objective.
That's their objective.
That's the objective that they have articulated to us.
Have they tried to sell any of their other property in Stillwater?
I cannot tell you that. I do not know.
Quick follow-up. You said that's their objective. Did they say we want to sell it right now?
They said that they wanted to select a piece of property that they thought would be most marketable because their intent is to sell it. They did not specify a time frame.
And it is zoned public right now,
That's correct.
And it's been zoned public for how long?
The city acquired the property in the 1930s, so...
So probably since we've had zoning.
Yes.
Have we ever had anyone who wanted to purchase that property?
I have not been involved in any kind of discussions with that.
We've had, from time to time, we've had some speculative inquiries into the property for industrial purposes, since there is industry to the immediate south side and industry across to the east. We've never had any actual proposals made for purchase to the city, but it's been looked at.
Anything that they would want to zone it? It's public right now.
Correct.
They can't do anything without coming before city council to ask for a rezone before they could do anything to sell, right?
In order to develop the property beyond anything that's allowed within the public zoning category, they would have to come to the city council and request and get approved a rezoning.
And how close does it back right up to the Kamioka Trail or to the neighborhood right there?
There is a gap of from the Kamioka Trail. I think if we can pull up the map, please. There's the western edge of the property is right there.
Close to a couple hundred feet.
Yeah, it's
City,
a pretty...
You're looking to the west of that colored area and to the Camioca Trail and the open land to the west. That's all retained by the city as city property. So the trail is removed by probably 150 to 200 feet from...
Lauren, do you know how deep the east-west direction of this parcel is approximately? I think
it's 700 feet.
I think I have that.
So you're looking at probably
700 feet.
Minimum 300 feet to the trail, probably closer to 5.
Yeah, yeah. The east-west direction I'm reading out of the description here is it's actually almost a square. It's 700 feet in one, a little over 700 feet in each direction. So proportionally, if that's 700 feet, we may be at another 700 feet, you know, to the backside of this is a wooded area right in there. So we have a pretty significant difference or distance between the west side of the parcel that we're proposing to exchange over to the Camioca Trail, and then once again on the north side, it borders what would be the south side of the Parkview Estates common area.
Common area?
Yes, common area.
No duplexes or houses, right?
No, it is not adjacent to any residential lot.
And the wooded area, does it cover up anything that, would you be able to see from the neighborhood?
The wooded area, as you can see, there's a pond in that common area. I think once you get to the wooded area, it provides a good natural buffer. But once you get to the pond, this is obviously more open, and I think as you drive north on Perkins Road, you can see through the common area, and you can see the back sides of those residential homes that are right along the south side of that roadway. That would not change.
You did say the property is zoned public.
Yes, sir.
It would remain zoned public until this council acted.
Exactly. That is correct.
So any use of that property other than public would be reviewed by us.
Correct.
Here's a question probably for Mr. Dorman, and any mineral exploration would have to comply with our existing ordinances within the city limits. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's only allowed in ag and IG zoned areas.
So that would come before the city council again before they could allow oil or gas exploration?
Yes, that's correct.
Has that land been studied for oil and gas exploration?
I don't know the answer to that. I also don't know if the city is conveying minerals in this transaction, so they may not actually get possession of the mineral rights anyways.
I saw that in this. I saw something about minerals. I don't know if I was reading it right, but it said something about oil and gas and minerals rights.
I don't know that the city received minerals when it received title to the property back in the 30s. We're actually researching that right now because the abstracts were surface only.
What would that mean if we didn't receive them?
We couldn't convey something we didn't receive.
Someone else would already.
Someone
we
else
don't.
owns
Someone
them?
else already owns it.
Right.
Someone from the 30s.
Mr. Blankenship,
Sir.
you made a comment earlier that made a lot of sense to me, and it really helped crystallize some thoughts. This step of the overall transaction, I'm sorry, the overall project of building the power generation facility, this is one step of it.
Yes.
And if you look just at this step, I know there have been some questions raised about the difference in values. Would we even be looking at this if it weren't for the big picture of building a power generation facility?
Absolutely not. There's no way I could stand in front of you and tell you this was in the best interest of the city or our utility ratepayers if it were just simply a land transaction. Absolutely not.
On its own by itself, it may not makes sense, but this is part of a bigger picture.
Part of a much bigger picture, yeah. And actually, when you look at, we're looking at about a $70 million project, and the difference in land values here is about $250,000, $250,000. And so, in the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively small number. But when you actually start to apply the value of this particular location in comparison to other potential locations, that's where the scales start to shift and really favor this location.
The comment that you made that made a lot of sense to me, and this is looking at any construction project,
right?
That the price of the real estate is one element.
Correct.
And the other elements, as you build the total budget for a project, would include dirt work.
Absolutely.
And if this was a private, any zoning, any of those type of things,
right.
And then you'd have utility extensions. And here, very specific to this project, you brought up two that really hit home, which were the potential extension of the 69 kV line.
Yes.
And the extension of the natural gas.
Yes.
And so just want to make sure I heard you correctly. With all the factors, if we went to another piece of property that might have less cost of the real estate, we are increasing the costs of dirt work, site prep, and extension of the needed infrastructure. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. In fact, we're, if we were to go to another site that was not adjacent to the 69 kV transmission line, we've estimated that it's about $675,000 a mile to build the transmission line.
Did you say 679,000?
675,000 per mile. And we need to connect to we need to be able to connect to two places on the 69 kV, because we don't want to have our power generation system sitting on a radial or single line. We need redundancy. We're building, a plant here that we need to be able to, if we have a problem with one way out, we got to have another way out to get electricity out of the plant. So if we were to move away to where we could only make one connection, then we'd have to look at how we would get the distance to make a second, or if we weren't even adjacent to it all, we would have to build the transmission line so we had two connections, a redundant connection to the transmission system.
So even if you had to go a half a mile, you're talking over $300,000
right.
for that half mile, which well exceeds the total purchase price, much less any differentiation.
Absolutely. And another thing that is really of value to this particular parcel is the topography. It's relatively flat. It's also adjacent to the existing substation. We've got a distribution substation there. And not only is it flat, earlier this spring, the CLO inadvertently allowed a oil company to come in and start to prepare a platform in there. When they realized that was land that they were negotiating on with us, and also when the oil company learned that it was land in the city, the oil company really said, we don't want to be in the city, we don't want to deal with the regulations of the city, and CLO says, well, then you need to move out of there. So they actually did a fair amount of site prep that will ultimately benefit the user of that property. So it continued to, it was added value.
Any other questions for Mr. Blankenship?
On I guess the typical process on getting rid of or selling public property, is that generally just kind of closed bidding, or do we generally open that to the public, or how does?
It depends on what you're doing. In the case of this transaction, the commissioners of the land office, they basically have two ways that they can get rid of property. And one of them is that they have like annual sales of property. And one of the problems in this transaction was we weren't even on track to meet their timelines for a sale of that nature. The other thing is they can exchange with another governmental entity. So that's the scenario that's going on here.
I was more talking about our property.
There's
How
not
do we generally sell our public property?
There's different ways you can do it. You can declare it surplus, and you can have an auction and sell it. If there is an economic benefit, or if there is a benefit to the city, as is in this case, then you can go through basically a private sale scenario. And under the charter, if the value of it exceeds $250,000, then you have to do a non-emergency clause ordinance to actually carry out the transaction.
Like somebody's talking to me.
Pat's getting help from Siri.
My son's having a baby, I have to have my phone on. My son's wife.
Yeah, no explanation needed. Thank you.
That answer your question, Councilman?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Blankenship?
No, again, I appreciate your answers. Just on paper, it was pretty startling, but the explanation is always good.
Thank you.
Discussion on this matter?
I did want to just note, just for the record, I did ask Mr. Dorman about postponing this because I had concerns from citizens about postponing it. He said this is the first reading, so we're gonna have a second reading. So really, there was no I guess immediate need since we're gonna look at it again. I will say my biggest concern is I haven't been on council as long as you three, and so this is the first time I recall hearing of it, and especially through the process. So that's my biggest concern is it's a lot to take in, and this is the first time I've ever obviously dealt with something like this, and so I'm not against it, but I would like more time to process, and so I just want to make that known as to why my vote will go a certain way.
Any other discussion? I know for me, I said it to Mr. Blankenship, bottom line is this is one element of a big picture, one element of the big project. And even when you look at this element, there's more that goes into a construction project than the price of real estate. And when you take all factors, all costs into account for this project, this is the lowest price, the lowest cost to accomplish the goal. If we were to look at anything, any single element of any project, I can promise you there's going to be something that seems a little different. But when we look at it as a whole, we look at the big picture. This path provides us the most cost-effective method to achieve the goal. Additionally, this project is, in my opinion, so important for the future of Stillwater that even if we don't like this one element of it, all the other benefits and all the cost savings and all the control of the power supply into the future greatly outweigh if you put the blinders on and look at just one factor. This one factor, while by itself seems scary, when put into context, points this to me as the best path forward. Any other comments or discussion? Question. There is a resolution and an ordinance. Is there action under the general order?
No action under general orders. Your action would be under item 10A in the ordinances.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? I'm sorry. This wasn't the first property that we explored, if I'm correct. We tried many other properties. Is that correct? And this one was the best.
Which side? Are you talking what we are going to
what the
acquire
city,
or what is being asked to?
what we are going to acquire. This was not.
No, we looked at, we in the feasibility study, we looked at, I think there was about 5 different properties we looked at. And then once we started down the road with the CLO, We even then looked closer at a couple other parcels. We looked at the parcel directly to the south, which is privately owned, and the price that was quoted to me was significantly higher. And then we looked at, we took a real close look at the 47 acres immediately to the west of Armstrong, and then we, that price-wise was actually quite a bit less. But when we started to apply the criteria that we used, one of the things that was most difficult about the parcel immediately west of Armstrong was access. There's the railroad tracks that separate the parcel from Airport Road, so we would have had to build access across the railroad or build access along the north side of Armstrong's property. We also, it's approximately a half-mile west of the CLO site, which means we would have had to extend the gas line another half-mile. It does have, it's adjacent to the 69 kV along its north side, but that's only on one side. We would have to connect twice to that. And then because it's more, a little bit more rectangular, that becomes a little bit less flexible when siting the plant. And one thing that's critical about the flexibility in siting the plant is when we go through the environmental process, that may require us to move things around to mitigate some impacts. And then the topography of the site is that it would take a considerable amount of earthwork. And so when we started putting all of those factors together and all the numbers together, although the initial price was very attractive, the end price was higher. So yeah, we did.
We also explored the existing location where our existing plant is. Gets the logistics a little complex. That became ultimately very expensive as well, and with other problems. But I think another thing that added to that, if you're going to be constructing a new facility that, for all practical purposes, is an industrial process, having it in an industrial area as opposed to in the developed part of the community is an advantage as well. And I think another way to restate what has already been said, after looking at all those properties, staff could find no other alternatives, and any alternative other than the one that's on the agenda is going to add several $100,000 or more to the overall project. So I think in full confidence, the staff brings this saying this is the least costly land alternative for a power plant that we've been able to find in the last 18 months of research.
Yeah, it came down to what I've said before. We asked ourselves the basic question, is this in the best interest of our customers? And we can very confidently say yes. Thank you for asking.
We're going to get to talk about this again here in a minute. Let's move on to resolutions, and we have Resolution 2014-9, a resolution declaring the necessity for acquiring permanent and temporary easements on certain tracts of real property hereinafter described for the purpose of the Western Road Waterline Connection Project for the city of Stillwater, Oklahoma.
This is the long talked about project. We want to start construction in the near future of the water line to connect the new water tower that's shared with Rural Water District 3 to our system. That'll be a water line from 56th to 44th. Multiple small landowners along that route that we'll need to negotiate the acquisition of easement or right-of-way for that line. And we're recommending a resolution declaring a necessity, which basically gives us the authority to go ahead and begin negotiations with all these people with fair market value in the event, an unfortunate event, we get close to a construction date in the future and we haven't been able to negotiate some piece. We'll be able to acquire that land through the court process if need be. But again, we hope we don't have to do that, but it's the tool that's necessary to get through the project. So we would certainly recommend approval of the resolution. We've talked about that before. We think that any project that requires a new right-of-way or easements for infrastructure, be it an electric line, a water line, sewer line, drainage, roadway, street. It's probably most efficient to clearly document a necessity for that right-of-way in the beginning, so that it clears the way to acquire all the necessary property. Again, it's in the best interest of the public, and there'll be no attempt to acquire anything for less than fair market value. So it should be a win-win situation for everyone.
Any questions on this resolution?
Motion to approve resolution 2014-9.
Second.
A motion and a second. And that is approved 5-0. That's going to take us down to ordinances. And on first reading, we have ordinance 3271. Mr. Dorman.
An ordinance authorizing the sale of a certain parcel of property located at 4220 North Perkins Road, provided for citizen-initiated referendum of said sale in accordance with Section 4.2 of the city charter.
All right, so this is what you were just describing to us about the way that a property can be sold.
Yes, sir.
Move that to second reading.
Second.
Motion is second. Ordinance 3271. And that is approved 4-0-1 with Councilor Nahara abstaining. Moves on down to second reading, ordinance 3268.
An ordinance amending the Stillwater City Code by amending Chapter 23 Land Development Code, Article 5, Use Categories and Limitations, Division 2, Accessory Use Categories and Regulations by creating Section 23-114 Mobile Food Service Establishment Courts.
Okay. Questions on this ordinance?
Motion to approve second reading ordinance 3268.
Second.
Motion and a second on ordinance 3268. It's approved 5-0. Ordinance 3269 on second reading.
An ordinance rezoning a tract of land located at 1711 West Lakeview Road from RSS Residential Small Lot Single Family District to CS Commercial Shopping District.
Questions on this ordinance?
Motion to approve ordinance number 3269.
Second.
Motion and a second on 3269. That's approved 5-0. And ordinance 3270.
An ordinance closing 10 feet of the right-of-way of 12th Avenue adjacent to property addressed as 214 East 12th Avenue.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second on 3270. And that's approved 5-0. Okay, that's going to take us down to reports from officers. Mr. Dorman, do you have anything?
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Okay, Mr. Galloway.
I'd just like to reiterate appreciation to the reports tonight. It's two success stories on public-private partnerships. We have a third public-private partnership we started a few months ago with the Stillwater Area Sports Association, SASA. I do believe in a year or so we'll be hearing the same kind of positive reports from that organization. And there may be a few other areas where we can continue to explore. You know, and I think Councilor Darlington was making the point, when you get a group of people that are passionate about the subject or an area, if it's one where we can find that group and they can manage a public facility with that passion, sometimes it becomes much more efficient and successful. And so we always look at those, so that's exciting.
Okay. Anything from councilors?
I would, if it is okay with council, I would like to ask the city staff to start looking at the possibility of creating an ordinance outlawing smoking at public parks and playgrounds within certain areas, whether that be play places and eating areas. You know, just kind of an idea of what we can look at, maybe throw around some ideas. I'm going to meet with some OSU officials to talk and see how they kind of started some of the things they did, but if that's okay, just to start kind of researching the idea.
All right. By the way, was this coming out of your quality of life group that you guys are working with?
We
Miguel brought it up as something that he was very interested in.
I've seen some other cities kind of take some steps that way, and I think it's a good idea to at least start looking at, see if it's something we'd be interested in.
All right.
It was another fabulous food truck Friday. Really was.
Great weather.
It was great weather, lots of people, just a good community event.
It was good last Friday. Congratulations to Bid District and all the food trucks. It was good. You guys got anything? No, sir. Okay. I have a couple, and the first is on behalf of the city, we'd like to send condolences to the family of Gloria Hesser, former county commissioner here in Payne County for many years. Recently passed away, I believe, over the weekend. And so condolences to her family on her passing. She served Payne County well for many years. And then also tomorrow on KSPI Radio, Councilor Nahara will be on the radio tomorrow, substituting for me. I appreciate you covering for me. So, okay. For upcoming meetings. Okay. It's going to take us down to appointments and library board. Let me grab my notes. Okay. We have a vacancy on the library board, and Robin Cornwell has submitted her application. And I would nominate Robin Cornwell to the vacant spot on the library board.
I second.
Nomination in a second. That's approved 5-0. Okay. Yeah, I will entertain a motion to adjourn City Council.
Second.
A motion is second to adjourn City Council.
We're going to do it in order for a change.
And that, we are going to go in order today. And so City Council is adjourned. Before we open up SUA, just the CETA meeting that had an agenda posted has been canceled, so we will not be having a CETA meeting. With that, we will open up, and I'll call the meeting to order for Stillwater Utility Authority for July 21st, 2014. And our only item on there is under general orders, a bid recommendation for CAW pump station improvements.
Yay.
Mr. Millis, are you going to fill us in on all the good happenings?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Bill Millis with the Water Utilities Department. I don't know if I can, oh, there it is. Okay. This is a picture of the CAW pump station, just for your information. You've probably not seen it. There on the right are the two large 1,000 horsepower pumps. On the left, we have three pumps at 200 horsepower each. May refer to them as the big ones and the small ones. A small shed there. Building behind it is like a single wide trailer, and that's the control room building with the all the electrical and control equipment that powers these pumps. I'll be real brief on the history just for some of you trustees that weren't here for this. But in late 2012, Jason Consultants performed a phase 1 condition assessment of the CAW raw water line. And late in 2012 is when they gave their report, and a couple of report and approved those. And this project that we're talking about tonight, as well as a project to excuse me, install air relief and vacuum valves along the whole pipeline, were the two most critical projects, and those are the ones that are underway now. This is the one that's first ready for construction, so that's why I'm here talking to you tonight. This project includes 2 variable frequency drives for the large pumps, which allow the pump as it comes. And that will, what that'll do is extend the life of the pipeline, because the rapid starts and stops and the resultant surges in the pipeline, we found in the study, were causing damage to the pipeline.
By the vibrations, by the starting those pumps so abruptly.
Yes, sir. Yeah, when it starts up at full speed, 1,000 horsepower, it sends a great shock wave through the pipeline, which actually goes back and forth numerous times and can damage the pipeline. They compared it to hitting the pipe and just smashed it. So that does damage to the interior liner, can do damage to the pipeline over time. So what this project will do is stop that particular damage and extend the useful life of the pipeline. It also includes a second prefabricated building to house the variable frequency drives, all the electrical and cooling equipment that goes along with that. These drives, they create a lot of heat. Cooling system to keep the motors and the electronics cool. Also do some general refurbishment. You can see here standing water around the pumps. So we're going to put in a subsurface drainage system. Some of those pump seals have been leaking, so some general maintenance around the whole site, some regrading. Another big item is a backup generator, so that when power goes out at this station for long periods of time, we'll still be able to run the pump station. Currently, we have two not operate the. So if we have a power outage in the summer, we cannot keep up with demand. So that's what this, the generator will add. The contract will last, construction will take approximately 18 months, which lasts, through the next 2015 summer high demand season. So we had, we're very.
Take to get the pumps installed after bids are accepted.
But
I guess, were you referring to 18 months on the building or the pump?
The entire project. Because there's long lead time on the pump drives and all the other specialized equipment. The refurbishment of the three small pumps, we're very careful with the language in the contract to protect the time next summer, basically any time, but especially during the summer when we need to have full use of the pumps in different configurations. So we've had what we call blackout periods next summer when they can't just take the pumps offline because we may need them. So that added some time, plus trying to give the contractor some flexibility as to whether they try to rush and do things before next summer. We wanted to give them the flexibility to do what they can before the summer, not to get in so much of a hurry that they're cutting corners, come back next fall and finish up over the fall and into the winter of actually February of 2016. Of this, rolling into the report itself, we had advertising, got 7 bidders. The lowest responsible bid is $5.725 million. So we are asking the trustees to award that contract, or to award the bid, to allow staff to execute the construction contract, to authorize staff to execute an amendment with the design consultant to provide specialized inspection services during construction. Very expensive. And so in addition to hiring a regular inspector, we want the engineer to come in at certain times and to witness certain tests and make sure that everything is working properly and configured properly to operate with our control system at the water plant. We also would ask to authorize a professional services agreement for the routine construction inspection. And the total, including total expenditures for the project, including construction, contingency, inspection, and additional engineering services. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions.
Is this in the budget? Is this?
Yes, yes,
Our
this would be appropriated from the Water Capital Fund.
For our costs. Again, we talked recently about the cost of service study, and those additional rates are set aside into that capital fund for these types of projects, and so it's.
Yes.
As the longest serving council member currently up here, I'm happy to make a motion to approve this item. We've been talking about these drives for a long time. It's time to get them installed, and so I move approval. Oh, don't slow him down.
Let's get a second, and then we can talk.
Second.
So we got a second. We can
second.
talk all night, Counselor. No, we can't. But go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification, in the report text, you named the company that would do the professional services agreement for the construction inspection.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the name of the company in the text the same one in the recommendation?
The inspection, yes, the inspection will be performed by East Breeze Construction Services.
Okay.
And Carollo is the design consultant, and they would be providing the additional professional services related to some inspection, but also to management of the construction project.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
When Jason Technologies gave that report, and I think the report said October of 2012, there was that, I mean, correct me if I don't remember that far back, but it was that report that allowed us, or got us to the point of the entire pipeline does not need to be replaced, but we need to take some corrective action.
The entire pipeline does not need to be replaced imminently, right now. Correct.
And so,
Wow.
right now,
He's going to qualify himself.
okay, these steps from that report, there were these steps and then cathodic protection and some others.
Yes, sir.
What is the status of the other steps that report in October 12 gave?
These were, well, there was the cathodic protection, there was air relief valves, variable frequency drives, there was another one, installation of isolation valves, and then closed circuit TV inspection of the pipeline. And those were all, the two we're hitting now are the most critical. So getting them underway has been top priority with regards to the call line. So the other two have not been evaluated and initiated yet. The ARV.
This was the big money,
These
and
were
this was the high impact.
The big money and the critical. You know, with for instance, with the cathodic protection, they identified that the rectifier beds were obsolete and were not in, you know, the parts were not available anymore. But they did not identify any damage to the pipeline due to corrosion. So that's, well, it's important to look into and take care of. It's not an imminent, you know, critical problem to address like the.
The impacts of the drive are causing the most potential harm to the line. We need to correct that.
More than potential, yes.
So the real statement is this is the most important and most critical step out of the report, and the other will be coming in the future. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Killing me, Mayor. You're killing me.
And
all the questions.
And the ARV project, air relief valves, is underway as well. It's
Go further. He called the question. So anyway, there's a motion to approve this recommendation in a second. And that is approved 5-0. All right, if we're not going to let Councilor Darlington talk all night.
No, I opened the floor. We got the item passed. You can
We got the
talk
item
all
passed.
night now.
The next item, do we have any reports from officers or board? If not, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. And that is approved 5-0. We are adjourned.